Chrissy McSweeney, who's with the PR Council. She's the Managing Director there. Also, Stephen Cenatiempo, Radio 2CC breakfast host, live from Canberra. And guys, I want to talk to you about the Greens, right? The Greens had planned in Western Australia a big dance party to raise money for their political campaigns. Have a look at the ad here. They're going to be running it in Perth. They're going to be running it on Anzac Day, can you believe? If we can just see the ad for this dance. There it is, the Greens party on Anzac Day, and it was going to be a big deal. And unsurprisingly, a few political leaders, including opposition leader Peter Dutton, slammed them over it. Have a look.
I think it's completely inappropriate, and I think it reflects the poor values that the Greens stand for. And I just say to every young Australian who's proud of their grandfather who fought in the war, proud of a cousin who's serving in the Australian Defence Force now, understand that the Greens have complete contempt for our Defence Force personnel. The Greens, of course, would be the partners in government with Anthony Albanese, and Mr Albanese should condemn these actions.
Yeah, well, Albanese didn't. A strong effort there by Peter Dutton, though, Stephen, and the Greens backed down. They've cancelled this event.
Well, and so they should too. But does it surprise anybody that the Greens would do this? I mean, the most un-Australian political party in Australia denigrating our most sacred day. Look, it doesn't surprise me. It disgusts me. I think it's disgraceful. But I just roll my eyes and shake my head these days with anything the Greens do.
Yeah, it was disgusting. But I thought, Christy, it really highlighted the difference too between strength and weakness when it comes to Dutton and Albanese, because Albanese was asked about this, and instead of slamming the Greens, you know, his friends really, of course he loves the Greens, he doesn't get into Parliament without the Greens, he just said something general about Anzac Day, whereas Peter Dutton called them out for their Australia-hating attitudes.
Of course, there's a 12% national vote at the last 2022 election. Greens were at 12%. All of those preferences go to Labor. Young people don't understand that if they vote Green, it goes to Labor. They genuinely do not understand that, which is another discussion we have to have about civics education in our schools, perhaps replacing some of the other things that are taught in our schools. But what is actually extraordinary about this is how tone deaf the Greens are to the community of Western Australia. I'm a proud West Australian. It's an SAS town. It's a defence town. It's almost as bad as going to Townsville or to Tamworth and talking down the service of men and women in our defence forces.
Yeah, here. Now, the other thing Albo's done is a podcast where he's happily talked about how after he wins this election, this one's in the bank, he'll then be campaigning again for a third term in 3 years' time. Have a look.
You're telling me if the Nightly rings me up and says, Latika, will you come out and cover the campaign in 2028? It's you that I'll be shadowing.
If I'm successful on the 3rd of May, then yeah, you'd be very welcome. I look forward, and I'll guarantee you another podcast during that campaign.
Can't wait for that one either. Christy, he's getting a bit ahead of himself, isn't he?
Well, for a man who went into his first election campaign with no policies and then, you know, barely has any these times, I don't know what he's going to come up with another 3 years, Chris. I don't know how much more debt we're going to be in by the time we get to that point. But I think politicians, when they talk to podcasts or they talk to FM radio, they put on their "it's not the Canberra Press Gallery" voice, and they try and be a bit jovial. But that's a slip up, and you would expect better from the Prime Minister and someone who spent a long time in Parliament battling journalists, and this is a professional press gallery journalist, Latika Burke. She's been at it, you know, for a long, long time. She's very experienced. It's not an FM radio host who was chatting away to there.
Yeah, the hubris is extraordinary though, isn't it, Stephen? And the point is, he's been trying to bag Peter Dutton for him talking about which house he would live in if he won, which wasn't a good look for Dutton, sure. Well, this is Albo just as bad. He's talking about living in Kirribilli and the Lodge for 12 years.
But Chris, as I've said for a long time, this is a bloke who never expected that he was ever going to be Prime Minister. Now that he's on the gravy train, he doesn't want to get off it. Look, let's hope that the place he is living in is on the cliff top in Copacabana come the 4th of May when he's having his Star Wars party and eating his Vegemite or whatever it is that he's going to be doing. But you know, just the arrogance. It's almost like there's an expectation that, well, we kind of just snuck across the line last time. Well, let's just keep going. Hey, I mean, this gravy train's been fantastic.
Look, I checked in on the main press conference today, and honestly, some of the questions and more importantly, some of the answers from Albo, it sounded like he was addressing, a kid of a classroom of primary school kids. Have a listen.
I have a bit of a tradition of watching a Star Wars movie on May the 4th. I actually put a lot of Vegemite on my toast when I ate bread. Lewis the Cavoodle holds his birthday parties there every year on the first green and fairway.
Christy, did you need to know any of this, and does it help?
No, I didn't either. And we didn't show that clip there, but the Prime Minister made a thing about his gender evenness in choosing journalists for press conference. He made a point saying he always chooses boy, girl, boy, girl. I mean, isn't that sort of against the non-binary, gender non-specific viewpoint? And everybody laughed. And I think it is, if that was a coalition MP that said that, I don't know what we would have seen.
Well, let's stay with you, Christy, because I made that point at the top of the program that he's making presumptions about what gender people are. But I want to get your view as a woman, obviously, on this, because he also said the reason he does this is because the men yell out quicker and the women don't get to ask a question. Now, how insulting is that to Sam Maiden, Lee Sales, Latika Burke and the like?
Look, there is a lot of research that says in corporate Australia, women tend to not speak up and not use their voice. But, Chris, you and we've worked in politics and newsrooms for over 25 years, and no woman goes to Canberra without using her voice in the press gallery. And myself included. Included.
Man, people at one time used to say I was an aggressive journalist, but I got nothing on those, and no one's going to stop them asking a question when they want to, and as they should be. But I just find it quite condescending.
Exactly.
What do you reckon?
It's not for wallflowers.
What do you reckon, Stephen? You're happy to hear about cavoodles and whatnot?
Well, I was just going to say, clearly he's never met the women in my life. But anyway, moving right along. Look, the thing that really annoyed me about that is that there are people out there who are cancelling their Netflix subscriptions so they won't be able to watch Star Wars. They're deciding whether or not to buy Vegemite on the shelves. This bloke has done nothing about the cost of living crisis, and this is the flippant approach he's taking to a job that he thinks he's now going to hold for 12 or 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's just... Look, it frustrated me. It frustrates me more than anything that this has been the most lacklustre election campaign I've seen in my time following politics, and that's a long time. And this bloke is just look, I'm not going to say what I think. It might be defamatory.
Yeah, but the reason I highlight this is not just for the giggles. It's like this is a consequential election. This country is in strife, and this is the garbage we're being fed, and he's being allowed to feed the country. It is outrageous. I want to show you some more hypocrisy too that I noticed on the weekend. I was riding my bike around Sydney's Centennial Park a couple of times on the weekend with my son, and I noticed this. Look, this is a big Allegra spender poster on a big diesel-powered truck driving around the streets, Christy, completely unnecessarily, churning out all these diesel fumes and carbon emissions to get her elected. I thought she was into EVs and renewable energy.
Well, Chris, it's such a paradox, isn't it? People spruiking the net zero agenda and climate change being the greatest concern, using private aircraft. I'm not accusing her of doing so, but many people in corporate life like to travel that way. And now we have the trucks. And all that says to me is that she is making a lot of money from a lot of donors if she can afford, one, the fuel to drive the trucks around, and two, billboards that size.
And she's got she's got an army of little billboards running around the area, as have the tills around the country. Thanks for joining us, guys. Good to catch up with you. Stephen Cenatiempo from 2CC and Christy McSweeney from PR Council.